Here's your cookie. Welcome to Arts Lunch. Our guest today is Dale Dobias, and he has written a lengthy and comprehensive bio that he wants me to read.
Well, wait, no, I didn't say that. All right, whatever. She's in charge.
Dale Dobias, owner of Quinn the Wonder Pug, Tolkien nerd, librarian, and wannabe banjo player, is the director of library services among the Lutherans at a local Twin Cities seminary. Prior to this, he was the librarian at United Theological Seminary of the Twin Cities for over 30 years.
That's a long time.
Clearly averse to change, he still lives in the home of his childhood with his partner, a pug, and a wall full of instruments he believes he will someday learn to play. Dale's background in theater, a master's in theology from United, and a degree in library science has resulted in a lifetime of moderate income, but infinite satisfaction. He shamelessly foists poetry on his friends and wishes he could vacation in Middle-earth someday in the near future. Welcome, Dale Dobias.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
I've been around here forever and ever. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming, for appearing online and all. Cheryl surprised me one day saying, I'd like to do an art lunch about your collages and talking about doing smaller collage work. And I thought, oh, well, that sounds like a fine idea. I think I could do that. And then about a month or so after, I said, oh, and there's an exhibit we're going to do as well for your stuff. And I thought, okay, it's just paper glued to canvas, but all right. So, so I'm feeling a little overwhelmed by all of this, but I'm happy to be here. And I'm hoping that in the next hour here, we can just have some good conversation about things. I'll show you a little bit of the process, kind of blather on at times about stuff, I'm sure. And you'll also have the opportunity to kind of play along with me. So you see we've got some materials here so you can jump in and play as well. Starting out, I just want to assure you that we are not going to be making great art. But I hope that what we do together is to kind of enter into a spirit of play, to be able to have fun and be willing to allow ourselves to make mistakes, and to go, that just didn't work, and be okay with that. So just a little bit about how I got into this. I'm a dabbler. I like to kind of play around with all sorts of different things. And one day I found myself in my little basement studio playing around with little pieces of cut paper. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And if you've seen the show out here, the small triptych of landscapes was the first thing that I did. You need to be careful, I've discovered, when you do something like that, it turns out well, and you think, I'm amazing. This is fabulous stuff. I should do more of this. The next project didn't turn out quite as well, but that's fine. And I go through phases. So I'll go through a phase where I work pretty intensely for a couple months on stuff, and then I kind of set it aside. So it's not really a passion per se, as a lovely habit, I think. And I enjoy that bit of it. That it's kind of something I can go down into the basement. I can do. I can play with the materials. I can just have a good time. It's kind of contemplative for me. And I like to think of it less in terms of ending up with a product, with a piece, and more as a process and as a conversation that I have with the materials. And that's very satisfying to me. I think that helps. It helps to step back from the I need to produce something. It needs to be amazing. It needs to be this wonderful, wonderful piece that has great meaning and all this kind of stuff. And it allows me to step back and say, you know, this was a good step along the way. I learned something here. I like this little piece of it, or I like that little corner of this. And kind of file that away and go, next one, we'll see where we go with the next one. Feel free to ask questions and stuff along the way here, folks, because I will probably blather otherwise. So, I ended up using a lot of these pieces out here in the exhibit are based on maps. I don't know how I stumbled on that, but it was a nice discovery for me. I think because it's maybe kind of hard to explain. There's a difference between playing tennis with a net and playing tennis without a net. You can do all sorts of stuff without the net, but if you put that net up, there's a certain boundary that happens, and you need to be in relationship to that boundary and to be in conversation with that boundary. And it's a certain givenness about the piece that there are certain parameters that you need to work in, which makes a lot of sense for me with collage, because I think collage really is, for me, is a good metaphor for life. There are certain givens in our lives, certain pieces, materials, memories, experiences that we have that we carry along with us, that we're aware of, some that we're not so aware of. And we take the opportunity, I think, if we are reflective about our life, to piece those things together in different ways and make a narrative that makes sense and feels authentic and honest. I think that's true for collage as well. So there are certain givens, parameters that we have to work with. And for me, the map kind of presents that as a beginning of that conversation. And then I stumbled on, because I have been decimating yet another library in my life. And we went through the ends, which is the arts. I have a number of art books now in my collection. And because I'm decimating libraries for a living now, I have no qualms about ripping books apart. I know people have trouble with that. I'm not going to invite you over to help me destroy another library if you have trouble with that. Yeah. That's what I do, Wilson. That's my calling now.
Need art.
I need art. So I saw these books and I thought, ooh, these are fun little images. And so I started working, kind of putting the two together, just seeing what the conversation, what happens with them. And that's the smaller scale, I think, is really, really fascinating to work with. In my past, I worked in theater and I painted backdrops. And when you paint a backdrop that's 30 feet by 20 feet, this little 2-inch square is some kind of meaningless, because it's lost in that giant space. And if there's a mistake on this little square, the audience isn't going to see that because they're sitting 30 feet back or more. But when you work on a real intimate space scale, you come up close to this and you have to really pay attention to what's happening in that space. You don't have the luxury of you don't think on a grand scale. Although the funny thing is, when you enter the conversation, you work on a small scale, that conversation is happening. And this becomes a universe that's huge in some ways. And those connections, those splices that you make to putting those pieces together, you think about how that works. What's that mean to have those things next to each other in a way that you might not think about it if it's a larger scale. You might just go, oh, this is okay. But you really have to think a little bit more when you work on a smaller scale. The other thing for me, when I have dabbled in art in the past, with different kind of forms and formats, I'm always interested in what's outside the edges. What's happening out here? What's happening out here at the outside edges? And so these edges here become important boundaries. And if they're working well, in my mind, the person who interacts with this, who looks at this, will go, that's a fascinating world. What's outside that as well? Right? Again, when that works, it's amazing. 5 out of 7 times, it doesn't work. But that's okay. For me, it's like, what did you learn? What worked? What didn't? The other thing that's, yes, sir.
So I'm intrigued by this whole thing. Is that somewhat the invitation of the larger matting and boxed frames? Like to really look at the small and then imagine the bigger?
Yeah.
Because it works.
For me, what that,
I mean, just the way you present it out here.
Yeah.
Like a smaller thing in a larger frame, like there's something more beyond this.
yeah, Sheryl and I had a really good conversation about it when we were talking about this show and mounting this. And I had thought shadow boxes are probably the way to go. But she really pushed, especially for the really small pieces, to make that frame as big as we could. Because I think what that does then is it forces the viewer to really hone in and to really pay attention to what's happening in that small little space. And so it kind of floats in this kind of amorphous kind of space.
So kind of an invitation.
Right, an invitation to come in closer, because you come up and you go, and you have to lean in to see anyway. But it'd be different if, when we first talked about God, well, we could just pin them up on the wall. But that wouldn't have the same effect. I don't think. The other piece for me, as we talk about this and think about this, I have always believed that if you could just peel back the edges of reality, you would see that everything is shining like gold. That's the reality of our lives. That there's a deeper reality that's hidden just under the surface for us. It's always there. It's always present. And sometimes I think the role of the artist is to help peel that back, just an edge, if only an edge, so that we see what's hidden, what we've missed over. That's part of the hope I have for these kind of collages. I hope they help people see something a little deeper, a little differently. I don't know how you personally feel about AI, and I don't want to get into a huge conversation. But at Lutherland right now, there's some conversations going on about AI and the use of it and all that sort of stuff. But one of my colleagues is very much into it and very much helped me to see the different uses that are possible and how it can be a tool. So we experimented and we took an image of one of the collages and asked AI, I said, you are a famous art critic. Analyze this work.
Interesting.
I'm freaking amazing. It's because it goes on because this whole conversation about place and location and about classic art and blah 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 blah. It's like, boy, if you let that go to your head, you're gonna go crazy. But it's interesting to see, what can be read into these things. For me, they're playful.
They're hysterical.
Right? It's like, I love the look on Babe the Blue Ox's eyes, right? I mean, that's brilliant look on in that piece. So for me, it's like, this is kind of a playful sort of fun thing to do. If there's more to that, great. But anyway, so those are all kind of the pieces that go into what's going on here. If you want to, we've got some materials here that if you want to play along with us, I will try to show you kind of the process that I use. And we can just kind of play together and have conversation. I hope have some conversation about what's going on. We've got a lot of different sizes here. If you've got bold eyes and you want something larger to work with, feel free. If you don't want to play it, that's fine too. But here's some options. And again, we're probably not going to end up with great art, but we'll have fun. Well, I'm very excited about showing this. I brought some extra paper kind of stuff.
That's the utility and I.
Very excited. The other day I found these tiny little tiles, and so I started making tiny little collages. So if you want to take a look at those, I think what's fun about these is it really does kind of show exactly what we're looking at, kind of the process we're working for. It's so small, it's like you can't do a lot of elaborate stuff, right? You have to really focus on what's going on. So pick a little piece of canvas. Again, if you don't want to play along, that's fine. We're just going to kind of doodle and noodle around here a little bit. Well, the first thing I do is I pick a size. I've been going with this 2-inch size. It's kind of a nice one to work with. Kind of forces you to focus. And then then it's a matter of choosing a map. And here that you can kind of I kind of cheated and pulled out a map that I kind of like it. So this is the first step of the conversation. Okay. So what I do with the map is I kind of look for something that something that catches my eye that looks interesting, that I'm gonna say speaks to me, but that's kind of whatever. One of the things I've started doing, just to kind of help me, is I've created a little template. Like this is my 2-inch template. And you can kind of go around like this on the map, and you can kind of go, oh, what works? Okay, so what we're looking for is what we're looking for is how to narrow down this larger kind of thing into a small space, right? So what I want to do is I want to look for strong lines. It might be roads, it might be the river. It might just be that the squares of the roads really kind of are intriguing to me, and I'm enjoying that. I like, for whatever reason, what I like about this piece of map here, this is a map of Cedar River Falls. So what's interesting to me about this is there's this lovely kind of, the city itself is this nice orange space up in the, right now I've got it up in the upper left corner. But I love how this road, there's some nice strong roads coming in at diagonals that gives it some kind of movement. I don't know if you can see it very well on this map here. Can you zoom in a little bit? I don't know, Sheryl, can you?
I don't know if you can.
Let's see.
In that screen too.
Does that work? Okay. So look what happens here as we move this little thing frame around. It changes kind of what happens in here. Because we're thinking now in terms of the small space and what quote unquote works. I love these highway lines, and I like the river kind of does this kind of moving sort of thing. This is kind of this fun kind of thing. Something about this angle of the rivers, and then see how the roads come up like this. I move this around a little bit. I also like what's attractive to me here is there's a little space. This space between the road and the edge, or the road and the edge over here is the same. So that kind of feels right to me. say this. So now I've got my piece of map that I like. Found it. That works pretty well.
What did you identify again? What is your piece of the map?
This piece of the map that I like. This, can you see up there, Wilson, on the screen? Yeah.
What's the town?
This is Thief River Falls.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And you said you want like a river or some.
Yeah, and you'll see why I like rivers and things like that. Something kind of dramatic, something that kind of jumps out. It's like, wow, that's kind of a strong kind of.
Do you want it to kind of sort of go over the edges or just right to the edge?
You can. What I'm gonna do this one. I'm gonna scratch this out to the right size. Draw lines here. If you draw it larger, you can do it fine. I'll show you what happens if it goes over the edge, and often pieces of what I glue on here will stick over the edge. Cindy Beth.
Yeah.
And then I'll just flip the whole thing over and I'll use the exact knife to trim it off.
Okay.
And that's kind of what we do here. Right now I'm gonna cut this out. I decided on my shape, space. Shape.
Great.
Yeah, any questions so far or comments or? I think it's pretty cool. What's pretty cool for me is once you get that little square cut out, then just kind of look at that and kind of go, wow. You know, it's like, that's its own thing, right? It's not, now you've basically said, this plot of land out of this map is significant. We don't know what it's going to turn into, but it's something more than just a space on a place on a map, on a larger map. Okay. So that's going to go on our. I use rubber cement because
Smells so good.
there is that.
I actually love it.
We'll have a good afternoon.
There is that. Yeah.
We should talk about that maybe.
Maybe. That's all part of the creative process. So, yeah, so what I like about rubber cement is you've got a lot of time to play, right? So I kind of go for the rubber cement. Here's some paper towel.
Right.
Perfect. I sometimes think it's kind of lobby, and so I want to make sure that. Put that on. Move your map on the. Square. All right. So now I got a little square of map glued to a canvas board. Now, how are we all doing? Finding space, finding some stuff. Good. We got the rubber cement on the border. Stuck. So that's the light for us. Yeah. And once you get that glued on, once you get that glued on,
It'll come back down.
spend just a little bit of time looking at that square map that you cut out. And what's intriguing about it, what looks like it could be removed, replaced. This point in my career as a collage person, my work tends to be pretty flat, right? So what I tend to do is I will cut out part of this map, and I'll find an image or something else that I can put in place of that. And I try to get those edges to fit exactly. So the whole thing looks very flat. Just recently, however, I've started being a little more creative and playing around a little bit more. So if you look at the work out there called The Light Descending, that one I did a lot more work with some depth by using frayed paper around the edges and stuff, and little fibery paper. So it's less a flat surface and a little more goes up. It just seems to be the direction I'm going. So it's interesting to see how things change and how they develop. Yes. You doing there, Pat?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, good.
Not every artist does it.
They do. Yeah. How we doing, people? Yeah.
That would be smart.
Let everybody get their maps to the canvas. Yeah. You know, the other thing, talking about the framing, the other thing that I like about the framing, they almost look like little reliquaries, like little shrines, and I like that.
There's a shortage.
We got a shortage?
Rubber cement.
Oh, yeah. Sure, you rubber cement.
Say that again
There you
about the reliquaries.
Oh, one of the things I think the framing does, the shadow box thing, is I think it creates almost a shrine-like sort of experience, which in my mind kind of elevates whatever you've done into something a little more sacred. So are we elevating the place, location? AI would probably make a big deal about it and say that. That may be what's going on. But I like that it focuses your attention, and I like that it kind of sets it apart and says, stop for a minute and really take a good look at this. What does this say? How you doing, folks? Good? All right.
Hold that up to in front of the, there you go. Close up.
Close up with that.
Is that good, Zoomers?
Can you see that okay? Look backwards. Okay, I can't. It's not good enough.
April can see it.
You see it, April? Good, okay. All right, kids, next step is what I would do with this is I would look at it and go, what do I want to play with and see if I remove something and put something else in its place, what will that do? And so on this one, and yeah, this was probably a bad one to pick, but I'm going to do it anyway. I love the rivers, and I like this kind of. It's like all these little diggly parts on this river kind of thing, and it makes kind of a V that points into the city, which I find kind of intriguing. What I'm going to do, I am in love with an X-Acto knife. These are amazing. I am going to try very, very hard to cut along that river and pull that piece out. Then I will look for some image to put in its place. Now this one's really squidgy, so it's gonna be kind of a little bit of work. So let's talk and have conversation about stuff. So we're not just watching me try and cut this out. The other thing that I like about this, so see, there's something about this road, this red line that comes out and comes down this road here. I'm wondering if there's a way I can cut that out and put that back in. I don't know how well that'll work, but that's kind of what I'm intrigued by. I'm thinking that might be kind of fun to see that run across the image. But we'll see, okay? So,
Are you just tracing with your knife or are you actually taking the piece of paper off of the thing?
I'm actually gonna cut on this canvas. I'm gonna cut this out and we're gonna peel that off.
Okay.
And that'll become our template when we go to find an image to put in there.
Do you recommend that we watch or try it with you?
You try it with me because I want us all to have fun.
Okay.
Okay?
And none of the books on the table are sacred. Any page is up for your creativity.
Theological discussion about that.
Why are
Yes.
you doing this?
I love destroying books, Wilson. Can you believe it? Yeah, yeah.
I understand. Yeah, so, I don't know, the why question, that's interesting. I think it's kind of interesting to see how you can transform what seems pretty blasé, right? It's just a map. What can you do to transform this thing that most of the time you just kind of don't pay much attention to? Actually, right now, you got GPS to tell you where to go, right? Who looks at maps? So,
And isn't it a metaphor for life in that we cut away things that seem to be not needed and replace them, and so we come up reassembled?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. This may have been a bad decision on my part, but hang in there and do it. The Red River is
I
very
really
legal.
like the blue and the main red line. I might take out a little bit here.
Cheryl, what you were saying reminds me of thinking. It was the watchword. It was the watchword of. And I was not a fan of it, but he began his tenure with successive beresford. It grows.
Interesting. I like that.
And when I was at a point in a former seminary that we needed to make some really hard decisions about workforce, declaring financial exigency, and letting people go, the successive beresford became for me this unbelievable metaphor.
Don't cut yourself, folks. Be very careful with the exact. Yeah.
We have Band-Aids if we.
Rubber cement.
There you go.
Take a paper towel and
You smell it, you won't feel
you
the
know.
That's kind of fun. There's another map.
You have a.
Oh, that's so cool. What'd you find there, Justin?
I kind of like that yours has a lot of like negative space.
I was thinking of overlaying something, so I have to.
Yeah, I kind of that's.
All right, moment of truth here. I've gotten to the point now where I think I've got all the little squiggles right. And so I'm gonna start to try and peel this off, this part that I cut, okay? I'm gonna see how well this works. I don't know if you can see that.
So you don't layer, you just.
Not right now, but this is, again, when I say it's a very flat kind of approach, yeah. I basically am gonna try and replace this with something else, right? Yep.
Yeah.
And so,
Intrigued. Why wouldn't you want to layer?
well, that's the thing. when you look at pieces out there, the light descending one, that's more of a layer kind of thing. It seems to be the direction I'm going now.
Okay, can we pass one of those books?
Sure. And all of those are perfectly fine approaches, right?
Thank you.
Here's iPhone. What, this is all of iPhone.
I like thinking about what Molly said about pruning as opposed to putting another layer on. Is that what we do? We just layer things on rather than actually?
Oh, look at you.
Is that a,
I think there's like a conversation.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
See, look how I've cut that out. Now that white space looks kind of cool just on its own,
Yeah.
That is
Got a lot more.
right?
careful, exactly.
Yeah, it's again, part of it is part of it working on a small scale is you gotta really be intentional and take your time. I think that looks kind of cool.
Are any of the students in the class that Andrew Packman is
I know,
teaching?
look at this.
Yeah, on attention, that kind of makes me think of this, yeah.
Now, what I would try to do at this point, I like this. Here's the other danger thing, kids. Falling in love with what you're doing, right? You really have to kind of be careful, at least be mindful of the fact that it's very easy to fall in love with what you're doing. But that is so precious. That is just so wonderful. I can't imagine doing anything other than leaving that as it is. I like this white space here, but I think I need something, and I think I need to take the risk and see what we can do with it. Now I'm going to take this piece that I've cut out, and I'm going to look for something to put in that space. And I love seeing all these wonderful art books. I don't have any qualms about cut this one up because somebody pulled it before and scribbled notes all over it. So.
It's already been defaced.
They've already been defaced, so I don't need to worry about it. The thing about finding something to put in there, that's up to you. Think about scale. What would it mean to put like a large face or something here? Or do I want to put something that's smaller, smaller figures or colors or something like that?
Oh, April has a question.
Yes, April.
Does your X-Acto knife not get gunky as you go through with this rubber cement? I mean, is the rubber cement, have you guys already put that down and it's underneath the map?
Yeah, that's what we've been doing, April. I've never had a lot of issues with the X-Acto knife getting gunky. What gets gunky is my fingers from all the rubber cement when you're trying to press things down and that sort of stuff.
Okay, so the knife itself is not getting like gunked up and.
Mine isn't.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
you may be having the kind of, if you are, you might want to keep some kind of cleaner on hand.
Sure.
Just, whatever that would be. I don't know, but some kind of cleaner where you can swipe off quick. Just be careful not to cut yourself.
Thanks, you guys. I have the symposium meeting at 1. Thank you, Dale.
Yeah.
Glad you joined us, April.
Yeah.
Good to see you, April.
Take care. I've been using maps. You can put whatever you want in that space. I mean, it's up to you. It's your piece. It's your conversation. I've got some colored paper here and things like that you could use. You can tear and you can put on top of something. Whatever you want to do with that. Again, in my mind, this is a conversation that you're having with your piece that you're working on. I remember way back when a mentor of mine, an art instructor, who said, you know, if you're making a sphere, you get to decide when that sphere is done. And you may say, oh, I'm going to shave off a little bit here, and a little shave here, and a little here. But you, in the end, are the one that says, this is right, this feels right. So, there's some fun stuff happening across the way. So again, this is just to kind of get you started. I use maps. Right now I'm using maps as the foundation for things. I tend to go to art books to kind of look for images to put in, to add in. If you want to do colored paper, if you want to go to magazines and do that sort of stuff, that's all fine. I think that what sets these things apart is the intentionality about what works and what goes where. Thinking about the edges, like you talked about earlier, what works, what doesn't. There's a difference between the collages you did when you were a kid and you were just kind of gluing things on, right? Kind of willy-nilly and go, oh, I like this space, I like this building, I like. Now we're asking you to take another step beyond that and go, why this space? Why this image? How does that fit in the scheme of this thing that I'm trying to do? That kind of, yeah.
You did not show you only in the small aspect, like line. If they simple that, then why use a map? I'm a map collector, so.
Yeah, that's like the rules of maps.
You get a little bit of
Yeah.
emptiness there.
Yeah.
For example,
There's more.
my little map is of Graceville. I never heard of Graceville.
That's
I
cool.
thought it's a nice theological name, and it's nowhere. And I grew up in a town that was nowhere.
Yeah.
But it really was everywhere.
Yep.
Because it was my town. That's beside the point.
I think Wilson, this, oh yeah, there you go. Map for me only because it provides an armature, something to work on. Maps force me to think more about that structure that's already given.
Yeah.
Right. And that helps me personally, because without that, I, in some ways, don't know where to go or where to start, right?
What did you start with other map?
Exactly. And what's interesting is that there's a way in which it stops being the map, and the map may disappear completely. When you look at the works out here, one of the small ones is called Sunrise over Grand Meadows. That started out as a little piece of map that had Grand Meadow, Minnesota. In the end, Grand Meadow disappeared completely. And so the whole thing was overlaid with other paper and stuff like that. It reminds me of a poem. What the author's name is. It talks about a poet, and he goes to visit an artist friend of his who's doing a painting about sardines. And he says, oh, it's got sardines. He said, yeah, it's kind of fun. I like the sardines. And the guy goes away and he comes back again and he says, what happened to sardines? He said, well, it wasn't quite working, so I did a little bit else. And in the end, he goes, he sees the work hanging in a gallery and it's called Sardines, but you really don't see much left of the sardines. And he goes on to say how when he writes a poem, he'll start, for example, thinking about oranges. And he writes pages and pages about oranges and all his thoughts about oranges. And in the end, he ends up with a poem that doesn't say orange at all. But it is about oranges in some ways. So for me, the map is more about a place to start and to see where it leads. You got some cool stuff going on over here, though. What do you? I like what you got happening over here.
Well, I desecrated one of your books to the point of I stole a flower right off the cover of the booklet.
Ah.
cut the paper that was shiny was really nice. I got a chunk of map that has the Iowa Minnesota border.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I also got a chunk of a tree that's overlooking some water,
Ah, nice.
as I was thinking about the lake that's over there. So maybe that and from that same state park.
Nice. That's interesting because now you're talking about texture and about the shiny versus flat, those sorts of things as well enter the conversation. So, what else have people got? That's got something over here.
Well, I chose Grand Marais because I love.
You like Grand Marais?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then dogs and horses, so
Nice.
Ooh.
Very nice.
Hold it up, let's see what.
well, it's very simple.
Great.
Great. Anybody else?
What do you have?
What are you gonna do
I have a
now?
little map down, I have a little.
You got a little, yeah, you got some three-dimensional thing going on there, Wilson.
But this is the town, and I couldn't find a river when I find a book, but there are ditches.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's important because I grew up in a part of Missouri, the Blue Hill, Missouri, and it's very rich land, but it flooded.
Yeah.
And so FDR and the New Deal created a network of ditches, and suddenly the land boomed.
Mhm.
And so again, the map is triggering things, I guess, that are, personal.
Yeah.
Going back. Ditches.
I think that's its title.
That's maybe, yeah.
Ditches, yeah.
My grace. Ever hear of grace? I guess.
Some of the boundary markers, and I've cut some pieces out, but I haven't decided what's gonna go back
Let
in
me go
there
back
yet.
in. Yep.
But you came kind of up to this, but I don't think you said it exactly this way. My sense is when I look in the books, I'm asking the materials to speak to me. So then I know what needs to go in here and I don't know the answer.
So, yes, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, Cindy, that because the Grand Meadow piece that I talked about,
Mhm.
I worked on that maybe a year or so ago.
Mhm.
And it kind of, I was like, this isn't right at all. It was really kind of, it didn't do much for me. And it sat for a long time on my desk. And then I picked it up one day and was like, all of a sudden, oh, I know what to do with this,
Right.
right? And
Right.
suddenly you're like, okay, let's do this now.
And I think even if I'm thumbing through a book or a magazine, I wanna listen to what the materials have to say.
Yeah, again, for me, I think it's all about that conversation that you're having,
Mhm.
both with yourself and with materials, and larger kind of world universe out there. And trying to be attentive and intentional about that conversation I think is what we're asking right now in this process. So it's not just, oh, I'm gonna stick this here and stick that there. But really kind of sitting down with it and saying, why this and why there?
Are we having to ask why of the materials though? I think the materials will just have to choose themselves, maybe.
Maybe,
Yeah, I think it's been mindful.
yeah, maybe that's a better word, to be mindful.
I have a friend who's a found objects artist, and she says that she never asks the why of why they come together, or she doesn't really ask that or look for that until after she's creating it.
Mhm. Yeah.
This fellow who's a mentor of mine, also did a lot of work with found objects. The most beautiful Madonna child he made out of an old sock that he found on the road that had been run over, by traffic and all that kind of stuff. It was breathtaking moving. Anything, Cheryl? Any questions, comments? directing things.
I'm good. Everybody can stay as long as they would like.
Well, would you, I would enjoy the talk about one or
Sure. Can I take a look at
two.
it?
They're finished, so to speak.
Oh, yeah,
They did what they wanted.
yeah, for the most part, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if you want to go ahead, just kind of take a look at them and we can talk a little bit about them. That'd be fun.
And there's gonna be another reception on
February 20th,
No,
13th, February 13th.
13th, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
February 13th from 4:30 to
4 to 6.
4 to 6.
will it be cheese cubes?
Yes.
Yay, cheese cubes.
Cheese cube,
That's the right answer.
Boxed wine.
boxed wine is good, yeah. I bought my first boxed wine over the holidays.
Did you?
Yes, and
Okay.
it passed muster. So,
I haven't done anything more on mine. I'm just not sure yet. But I'll save these pieces. And I'll work with them, at some point. I was kind of surprised at what happens.
It's kind of like compelling.
I think it
I know, I
really
saw.
teaches
Yes.
us to
They
observe
got a lot of rivers.
and, pause and look at what you're looking at differently than the way we always look at it. Looking at a map differently than what you use a map for if you're trying to traverse from one place to another. Now you're looking at it differently. And I think that's what art does for us, to see something we've seen over and over and over differently.
I mean, just looking at a map is different right now in our world that we live in.
I mean, how many maps do we use? We use GPS. And, yeah,
And really, in the end, I don't think it's not about maps specifically. It's about training yourself to see. That's really what we're asking is how do you see the world? And learning to see a map differently is a way towards learning to see the world differently.
Yeah, I think I had a mentor a long time ago that just talked about when you put up a map, you're opening up some history. The arbitrariness of boundaries and lines and topographical maps versus like nation maps and
Yeah, yeah.
state maps, just road maps, they're all have a different creation of people and instruction.
one of the best
Not just roads.
Yeah.
one of the best books that I got when United decimated theirs was an atlas of the movement of Islam through Europe in different time periods and what that mapping looked like. It's really interesting to go through page by page and how it, came forward and spread out and then receded back to where it started. So thank you for that.
Oh, yeah.
But it seems to me you're using maps not the way you're using. Yours is structural, yours is, and yours is the content and historical.
Mhm.
In other words, so I look at the map, I'm intrigued by these words and so forth, but that's not the point of what you're saying to us, at least in terms of what you're doing.
What we're trying to do here.
This particular time.
But at the same time, then there are all these other layers of meaning that are there, kind of lurking in the background, right? Those historical sorts of things, human beings putting structure on the land, those sorts of pieces are all part of that conversation. But- Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dale.
Yeah, thank you.